Hi everybody. My topic is bulk movement, peristalsis and defecation. First one is bulk movement. It is the process by which proteins with a sorting signal transport to and from different cellular compartments. Or it is a type of transport which involves transport of large quantities of substances like lipid droplets and solid food particles across plasma membrane by utilizing energy. Special processes are involved in the transport of large quantities of materials, which include endocytosis and exocytosis. First one is endocytosis. It is a cellular process in which substances are brought into the cell. During this process, plasma membrane surrounded and engulfs around the particle, forming a vesicle containing ingested material. Endocytosis is a form of active transport. It requires energy. It includes three processes: phagocytosis, pinocytosis, and receptor mediated endocytosis. Phagocytosis, also called cell eating. Pinocytosis is cell drinking. Phagocytosis. If the material taken is in large, such as bacteria or a food particle, it is called phagocytosis. Pinocytosis. It occurs vesicle form around a liquid or very small particle. Third one is receptor mediated endocytosis. During this process, molecules accumulated in the coated pit. The pit deeps seal and is incorporated into the cell as a vesicle. Here, in phagocytosis, plasma membrane surround and engulfs around that food particle or a bacteria and forms a vesicle containing this particle, so-called cell eating. In pinocytosis, same process occur, but the material is liquid or small particle, so-called cell drinking. In receptor-mediated endocytosis, receptor proteins on cell surface are used to capture a specific target molecule. The receptors, which are transmembrane proteins, cluster in regions of plasma membrane known as coated pits. Second one is exocytosis. Exocytosis is the opposite of endocytosis. During exocytosis, membrane-bound vesicle move to the surface of the plasma membrane, fuse to membrane, and then release the content to outside of the cell. Exocytosis is also a mechanism by which cells are able to insert membrane proteins like ion channels and cell surface receptors, lipids and other components into cell membrane. Vesicle containing these membrane components fully fuse with and become part of the outer cell membrane. Here substances are transported from inside the cell to the outside. Here secretory vesicles fuse with plasma membrane, which result in discharge of vesicle content into extracellular space and incorporation of new proteins and lipids into plasma membrane. It is the simple diagrammatic representation of exocytosis and endocytosis. This is all about bulk movement. Now I am discussing about peristalsis. Peristalsis is a series of wave-like muscle contraction that move food throughout the digestive tract. It starts in the esophagus, where strong wave-like motion of the smooth muscle move balls of swallowed food to the stomach. The motion mixes and shifts the chyme. Chyme means partly digested food back and forth. It was first described by Bayliss and Starling Physio as a type of motility. Peristaltic movement. The first step of peristalsis is swallowing of food. In the mouth cavity, food is chewed into small pieces by the tooth and mixed with saliva. The tongue rolls the food into the soft mass called bolus. During swallowing, the tongue rises to push the bolus towards pharynx. The soft palate moves up to prevent bolus from entering nasal cavity. The epiglottis is also lower to cover opening to the trachea. This prevents the bolus from entering to the trachea. This peristaltic movement is under neural control of several areas of cerebral cortex including motor cortex. Pharyngeal phase starts with stimulation of tactile receptors in the oropharynx by the foot bolus. The swallow reflex is initiated and is under involuntary neuromuscular control. Then the bolus enters the esophagus. The wall of esophagus consists of circular muscle and longitudinal muscle. When the bolus enters the esophagus, the circular muscle behind it contracts and longitudinal muscle relax. At the same time, circular muscle in front of the bolus relax and longitudinal muscle contract. This action pushes the bolus down from esophagus to stomach. This alternate contraction and relaxation of muscles produce a wave-like movement. This is called peristalsis. This is the wall of the esophagus. Here you can see inner circular muscles and outer longitudinal muscle. Due to the contraction of these muscles, wave-like movement or peristaltic movement occur. Here is the peristaltic movement. Circular muscle behind particle contract and longitudinal muscle relax. Simultaneously, circular muscle in front of the foot particle or bolus relax and longitudinal muscle contract. This led to the wave-like movement of foot particle. This is the diagrammatic representation of the peristaltic movement. This is all about the peristalsis. My third topic is defecation. Defecation is nothing but it is the excretion of waste material from the human body. It is the act of expelling feces from digestive tract through anus. It is also called bowel movement. It is the act of eliminating solid or semi-solid waste materials from the digestive tract. In human being, waste are usually removed once or twice daily. Feces are formed in large intestine and stored in sigmoid colon. Muscular contraction in the walls of the colon move fecal material through digestive tract to the rectum. Process of defecation involves following steps. Development of mass movement, feces pushed into the rectum, defecation reflex initiated. Defecation mainly include contraction of rectum and relaxation of internal and external anal sphincters. Defecation reflex. The defecation reflex occurs when the internal anal sphincter relax and external anal sphincter contract. Two sphincters control the action of defecation. The internal anal sphincter consists of smooth muscle cells under involuntary control, whereas external anal sphincter consists of voluntarily controlled striated muscle cells. Organ system involved. The colon is responsible for propelling feces towards the rectum and begin the urge to defecate. The external anal sphincter and the puborectalis muscle relax to allow the passage of feces out of the rectum. Abdominal muscle contraction are performed to increase intra-abdominal pressure and expel feces more rapidly. Rectal afferent nerves are responsible for the sensation of rectal fullness and the urge to defecate. Sacral nerves supply innervation to the muscles most involved in the act of defecation through pudendal nerve. That is, from colon, feces propel towards rectum. Then external anal sphincter and puborectalis muscle relax to allow passage of feces out of rectum. Puborectalis muscle sling is the larger muscle arising from posterior surface of pubis on each side and passing posteriorly beside urethra and vagina to fuse with opposite homologous muscle behind anorectum at anorectal junction. And at the same time, abdominal muscle contracts to increase intra-abdominal pressure, then can expel feces more rapidly. Rectal afferent nerves responsible for the sensation. Sacral nerves 2 to 4 supply innervation to muscles most involved in act of defecation through pudendal nerve. Pudendal nerve is a major nerve in the pelvic region. Mechanism of defecation. The rectum ampulla stores fecal waste before it is excreted. As the waste fill the rectum and expand the rectal wall, stretch receptors in the rectal wall stimulate the desire to defecate. This urge to defecate arises from reflex contraction of rectal muscles, relaxation of internal anal sphincter, and an initial contraction of skeletal muscle of the external anal sphincter. If the urge is not acted upon, the material in the rectum is often returned to the colon by reverse peristalsis, where more water is absorbed and the feces is stored until the next mass peristaltic movement of the transverse and descending colon. When the rectum is full, an increase in pressure within the rectum forces apart the walls of the anal canal, allowing the fecal matter to enter the canal. The rectum shortens as materials is forced into the canal, and peristaltic waves push the feces out of the rectum. The internal and external anal sphincters, along with the puborectalis muscle, allow the feces to be passed by muscles pulling the anus up over the exiting feces. Here is the pathway for defecation reflex. It includes entry of feces by mass movement, rectum is distended, sensory nerve endings are stimulated, impulses are transmitted through afferent fibers of pelvic nerve to defecation center. Center sends motor impulses to the descending colon, sigmoid, and rectum via afferent nerve fibers of pelvic nerve. Impulses cause strong contraction of sigmoid colon and rectum and relaxation of internal anal sphincter, simultaneously relaxation of external sphincter, which leads to defecation. This is another diagrammatic representation of defecation. Hope you all understood. Thank you.